Welcome to SDHC's Health and Wellbeing podcast. Before we begin, we want to emphasise that the information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. While we strive to provide accurate and up-to-date content, it is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. Always seek the guidance of your doctor or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. Remember, your health and well-being are invaluable, so prioritise consulting with a medical professional for your personalised care. Hi everybody, you're listening to the Health and Wellbeing podcast from Hillborough Health and Wellbeing and SDHC with your host Dr Nick Harvey. The purpose of this show is to help people understand how they can help themselves and others with their health and well-being. Every episode I interview an everyday expert to understand the latest evidence and advice on how to improve your own health and help others. This month, I'm excited to welcome Celine Woodthorpe. Together we'll explore a vital topic, oral health care and promotion, a focus on early childhood. Welcome.
Hello, Nick.
Celine is the Oral Health Coordinator and Trainer for East Sussex County Council. She's a British military veteran who gained her oral health experience and expertise while serving in Germany and the United Kingdom, as well as overseas military deployment. Her transition to motherhood opened the doors to a new career in the early years, completing her bachelor's in early childhood education and care. Motherhood supported her understanding of the complexity and joy of raising a child. Her experience with infant and children's oral health is fundamental in supporting practitioners and parents with practical guidance on toothbrushing and general oral hygiene education. Representing East Sussex County Council in the Oral Health Pilot Programme, Celine has managed to reach diverse communities through active engagement and meeting hard-to-reach families where they are. Developing meaningful relationships and building trust to ensure that health messages are received in a comforting and non-judgmental way. Celine has also developed a resource lending library to early years settings and childminders to access after they've received training to support settings in utilising items bespoke to oral health educational messages, for example, large teeth models, dentist dress-up and healthy food games. Sounds like great fun. Welcome and thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
So, Celine, first of all, as you know, I'm sure from listening to these, often touch on the personal side first. And I hear you're a mum and you're a military veteran. You've been incredibly busy to get to where you are. So just tell me a bit about how you balance all of that.
So it's not easy, as most parents will know. I think transitioning from the military was really, really tough. And then becoming a mother is another level of transition as well. And during that phase of transition, so I left the military when I was pregnant because I didn't want that lifestyle when I have a child. So I then had my son and it was just amazing to see how he developed and grew every day. And it's like with children, you don't realize actually how rapidly they learn, develop and how things change. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to go into early years because I found it really fascinating. And in my studies, I didn't really know which area to specialize in, but the holistic way of child development is something that really is drawn to me. I'm also a Froebelian. I'm not sure if you know what that means.
I don't.
Do you not? Okay, so Froebelian. So Froebel was a German educational philosopher, and his way of educating children is very much in connection with nature, very slow, at the child's pace, and adults almost being on the side and providing children with the right resources to learn, but also seeing the child as that they can educate with being around your peers, and it's all brought back to nature. So that was one of my core values within my early years, and I take it everywhere I go. I do know some of my colleagues laugh at me all the time because I mention it, but to me, it's really a fundamental part of how I like to support children in learning new messages and seeing them as an individual.
I love that because we've spent millions of years in nature and it's only really very recent that we just kind of moved totally away. And I hate myself for the fact that you just throw your children into the educational system sometimes, really because of your life circumstances, work and things like that, isn't it? So you've kept that connection. Good for you.
Yes, yeah. And I find that really hard still because it's part of who I am, and a core part of me is school routines, nursery. If you drop off, parents go, they need to earn money. So they're relying on childcare. And sometimes we're in this, I call it the hamster wheel of life. It's so fast paced, trying to keep up that we almost forget to just stop and just save the moment. And I do find when I'm around the children and doing some educational bits, that's something I try and really take time. And when there's a child that wants to shout out an answer or ask me a question, I really take the time to sit and listen and hear their voice, because I think because of the stresses of life for parents in general, we sometimes are so busy getting all the things done, the home life, the cooking, bath time, routines, that sometimes the child just needs us to be still next to them and really connect. And I think as part of early as educator, that's where the wellbeing element comes in, is us as parents, we need to learn how to stop, take a breath and connect so that the child can feel heard.
I think what I'm also hearing from you is this amazing journey you go on as a parent, because you start off thinking you got to know everything, but you learn so much, don't you, about yourself, actually.
Yes. One of the things I always, when I look at my son, I'm like, oh gosh, he's like the mirror image. He's the mirror. He mirrors my behavior. So if I'm not well, he would mirror that. And I was like, oh gosh, that was not his normal behavior. Yeah, children are just so amazing. They pick up and rely on like our environments. So for instance, I'm going to mention COVID because I feel like COVID has impacted a really big part of society, and children born during that period. We've already seen some of the issues that's come up around speech and language. That was probably one of the first things that became quite apparent, because children, everyone wore masks. So babies that were born, they didn't see people when they spoke to each other. They didn't see their faces. They didn't see their lips moving. And babies really rely on all these little cues to take that information in and learn. So children were isolated as well. So they didn't have that opportunity to see parents socializing in community. When you're in the shopping center, someone will stop and say, oh, you're so cute, lovely baby. And children missed out on that. So that had a massive impact on that. We've also seen toileting, children starting school, not being fully toilet trained, struggling with toileting. That's a big issue as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things happening where families really need support, and they might feel like, oh, they are failing their child. But again, as I said to you previously, it's like you don't know as a parent what you don't know until someone is there helping and guiding you in a non-judgmental way. Because I don't know if do you have children?
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever experienced that. As a parent, there's that element of guilt sometimes, parent guilt.
All the time.
All the time. And I think, oh gosh, yes, I've just got it. And then something else happened. They changed, they developed, and it feels like, oh, here we go again. I thought I just got parenting. I was just, winning life. And then there's another developmental change. So I think in a general, community is really key for most families. And because of our fast-paced lives, finances, communities is an area that really is not as available than compared to when we may have been children. I can really remember growing up and community was a big thing. So yeah, community will definitely help children in their development.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm definitely digressing from all that.
Well, there's this amazing saying, isn't it? It takes a village to bring up a child.
Exactly.
So let's get back onto the target then. We were talking about oral health, and I think there are lots of myths and misconceptions about early childhood oral health, isn't there? So what are the ones that you encounter?
So I wanted to, can I mention some of the statistics
Go
first
for it.
of all?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the UK, they've estimated the most recent statistics have stated that 1 in 4 children that's 5 years old have tooth decay, and 11% of 3-year-olds in the UK have visible tooth decay. And what we mean by visible is if they smile, you can visibly see the tooth decay. In East Sussex alone, 14.9 children under the age of 5 have been admitted to hospital for tooth extractions, and this will be under general anesthetic. So just by mentioning these statistics, when I do training with early years practitioners, what I try and get them to understand is that the impact on the child. So first of all, tooth decay is completely preventable. We don't need to have tooth decay, but we have tooth decay because of our really high sugary diets. Our modern diets have changed. We have a lot of ultra processed foods, which are high in sugars. And parents don't necessarily understand how sugar might impact your teeth. So that is something we will discuss a bit later on. And then when a child is admitted, so we have 2, 3, 4-year-old children being admitted into hospital. So it's a very clinical environment. They have GA, which means they're being put to sleep. And then when they wake up, they're in extreme pain and they've lost, if they had a full clearance, they've lost all their baby teeth. So it's a massive early childhood traumatic experience. And that's what they will carry on for life and be scared of the dentist. So all those elements I remind practitioners of is that's why part of our responsibility is to help educate children when they're in our care on what is a healthy habit. So healthy habits will be learn to blow your nose when your nose is running, washing your hands before you eat, after the toilet, wash your hands. And toothbrushing should really just be one of those healthy habits we support children in learning. So sometimes I get feedback to them that like, but parents need to take responsibility. And I was like, yes, that's a fair statement. But if a parent grew up in a family who oral hygiene and brushing teeth wasn't something that they were brought up or was part of their routines, the likelihood the child might not have that as part of their routine. So again, if the parent doesn't know, how can they make a change? And that's where we hopefully come in supporting families around that. Mm. So coming back to some of the myths around oral health, when you brush harder, you clean your teeth better. So actually, that's not true. The plaque that develops on our teeth is actually quite soft. So when we brush, we want to brush effectively and making sure we get the gum line and the teeth. The harder you brush, you can actually, it's almost a bit abrasive on the teeth. So people that might be very stressed, they might brush their teeth really hard and almost take it out on their teeth, not realizing they are brushing hard because they're actually stressed. So plaque is soft. It could just, with really good circular motions, gently brushing, you can get the plaque removed. When you brush too hard as well, you can brush some of your gum line away. So your gums will recede if you brush too hard. So that's not a good thing to do. One of the other myths is white teeth are healthier teeth. So a lot of people do not realize that the color of your teeth is actually naturally a yellowy color. It's not this pure pearly white you see on social media or we call it the Hollywood smiles. That's not a true reflection of the color of what your teeth are. So I have had parents saying, "Oh, but my child's teeth are really yellow," and then I explain to them that there's actually like a range of tooth shades, and it's just part of your genetics, and the dentine that's underneath the enamel in your teeth, that's kind of what predicts the color of your teeth. So some people might have whiter seeming teeth and other people will have darker teeth, but it doesn't mean it's not healthy. Then one of the things that we do really struggle with is parents would say we only visit the dentist when our teeth hurts. And why parents might think that is when you go and visit the doctor is because you are ill. So you go and visit the doctor because you've got a fever, you've got a rash come out, so you go and see the doctor and they miraculously give you some potions, lotions, meds, and you become better. And the doctor is the hero. But unfortunately with toothache, it's not really the same. And the dentist is almost seen as a villain. So I try, and when I work with children, I try and really create the message around we want children to see the dentist as often as they can. The recommendation is every 6 months because they have to get used to that clinical environment. And for children, because they lose their baby teeth and then the adult teeth come through, there's a big change happening constantly. And it's really for the dentist to check that the development is happening at the right pace, teeth are coming out well, and if there's any other issues. So yeah, it's very much different compared to visiting the doctor. As well, when I meet parents, one of the first questions I do is ask them, are you registered with a dentist? Because that's probably the most important question. Currently, there is quite a big struggle within East Sussex to get a dental practice or get to register. So there is some support lines and information we then give to parents, and we also tell them what to do if they had a dental emergency, trauma to the mouth or severe toothache or swelling of the face, what to do. Then one of the other myths is about starting brushing. So some parents don't know when to start brushing teeth, and in some cultures actually, they really believe that your baby teeth they're gonna shed, so it doesn't matter if you look after them or not. They just temporarily, so it doesn't matter. But actually, it really does. So if your oral health is really bad as a child, you are 4 times more likely to have issues as an adult. So baby teeth needs to be kept healthy as much as possible because it has that knock-on effect on the adult teeth. The adult teeth is already in the jawline when baby is born, and it just grows as the baby's head grows. The teeth kind of develop and then eventually pushes out the baby tooth, and then the adult tooth comes through.
Fascinating. So many. What I've been picking up there, though, is that this is about developing healthy habits. And
yes.
I'm always amazed, really, at how successful the dental industry is at making us do healthy habits, because I often talk to a patient about when you exercise or do something. A physiotherapist, for example, they struggle. But actually, dentists are pretty successful in getting us to do our habits on the whole, aren't they, in terms of brushing our teeth? So what's the secret there? What the secret you hold in terms of getting that healthy habit into people's routine?
So I would say one of the things working with parents now for the last few months, the first thing, and what they would say to me, is that it's a nightmare. Brushing your child's teeth, it's a battle. So I've coined the term saying it's the battle of the brush, because I've been through it with my son and I know how tough it is. So what I do is I really acknowledge that. So first of all, I hear the parent and I say, what you were telling me, that is, that's valid for you. Parents would also say, I'm scared of the dentist, so I don't want my child to have bad teeth. So I want to make sure we look after their teeth. So that's the motivator. They don't want the child to experience toothache. So then what I do is explain to them why toothbrushing might be a battle. And it's until I've broken it down to parents, they're like, oh yeah, now this makes sense. So when you brush your teeth, it's actually a massively sensory experience. So if you think about your 5 main senses, you've got your sight, your nose for your smell, your mouth, taste, and your hearing. When you brush, all of these are activated at exactly the same time. So you've got your toothbrush with the bristles, so the feeling of the bristles in your mouth. You've got the toothpaste that has a flavor and possibly foaming. So there's 2 extra inputs you're receiving. You can smell the toothpaste, and when you brush, you can actually hear it. So all of those things are happening at the same time for a child. And normally between 2 and 3, the ages of 2 and 3, there's a massive development that happened with senses and brain development. So all to do with brain development. And suddenly the brushing, the feeling and the sensation is too much for their little minds to process all at the same time. So what they do is they go into fight, flight, or freeze. So normally they'll bite down on the toothbrush so you can't brush. So they stop you from brushing, or they'll physically run away, or they might sometimes bite the parent. And there's no way the parent can get in there with a brush. And the only reason is because all those senses are activated at exactly the same time. So I'll say to parents is, would you let me come to you right now? So Nick, would you let me brush your teeth for you right now? No, the most likely answer is no, because number one, it's your mouth and it's quite intimidating. So
it's invasive.
It's invasive. There we go. So that's what I say to parents is when you are brushing your child's teeth, you are invading their private space. So it's almost, understanding what your child might be experiencing. So if the child is saying to the parent, it really hurts, they aren't lying. To them, that sensory sensation, their brain is telling them that is hurting.
It's overwhelming, isn't it?
Yeah, in that moment. So I would always suggest, first of all, I'll also ask parents, how much toothpaste do you use? So majority of the time, that's one of the reasons why children don't like it, is because we use too much toothpaste. So for a child under the age of 3, you need a smear of toothpaste. So if this is the toothpaste age, I know they can't see it, but it's literally like the smallest little smear. And for anyone 3 and above, is a pea-size amount. So when I show you this toothbrush, normally toothbrushes, even adult toothbrushes, are color-coded. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
So this color code there is indicating that's a pea-size amount. So you just need a dollop on there.
Okay, so the bristles that are coloured,
yes,
put the dollop there. Oh,
yes. So with adult ones, normally it will be normally on the front, or if you look at the bristles, there might be a little dip for you where you would put the toothpaste in. But then we are competing with marketing. To marketing, if you can think of some of the brands, they market the big wave of toothpaste. So that's what we do as adults. But actually, you need 1/4 of that.
Interesting. Because they just want to sell more of the stuff.
They want to sell more.
And why do you need less, though?
Because that's enough fluoride in that small amount to protect your teeth and cover your mouth. So when you brush, it foams and it spreads everywhere. So you only need a really small amount.
Can you get too much fluoride then? Is that?
So some patients, when they go to the dentist, they might actually be prescribed a much higher dose of fluoride. So there's specific toothpaste, but you can only get them on prescription. I'm not sure if GPs can prescribe them. That's something that if
yeah, we'd only do it if asked and
yes,
reluctantly, because the dentist can. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So there's prescription fluoride for people that might need it. But for you to have too much fluoride, you have to probably ingest quite a few tubes of toothpaste to really have the impact of fluoride not being good for you. So I have got some other forms of fluoride that I want to highlight, because there is a lot of misinformation online, unfortunately, around dentistry. There's a lot of fads that people buy into. And the only reason I know is because when I see something come up new, I'll order that product so that I can really look at it. And a lot of products might be coming from overseas and just haven't been through the right regulations in the UK and might not actually say what it does on the packet. So with fluoride, sorry, I just want to have a quick. So for fluoride, the recommendation for fluoride for children, so a child under 3, they should have a toothpaste content no less than 1,000 parts per million. So when I do training with practitioners, I have a big variety of toothpastes there for them to actually physically have a look. And I'd ask them, when you purchase your toothpaste, do you actually look at the tube? And they're like, no, I just take the one that says 3 to 5 or 0 to 2. I said, well, next time you go, have a look. And what you'll notice is the younger toothpaste will normally have 1,000 parts per million, which is your minimum amount. And then after 3, the recommendation is 1,350 parts per million to 1,500. And most of your adult toothpastes have 1,450, which is kind of in the middle of the recommendation range. So from 3 upwards, children can actually use the adult toothpaste as long as it's got that right amount of fluoride in. So I do recommend, I've bought one of these. So most of your supermarkets have their own essential brand. I do recommend them to parents all the time, because this tube cost me 50 pence, so cost. And the minty flavor is not overpowering. With some of your other adult brands, people really like that minty burny feeling, but that's too much for children. So the supermarket own brand is normally much milder, much more cost effective. And I'm just going to show you that little logo, that's what I tell parents to have a look at. That is your Oral Health Foundation approved toothpaste. So that little sign says that they approve this product, is one of the better products to have. Then with fluoride as well, some areas in the UK have fluoride in the water. So the water companies add that to the water, and that's about 10% of England, which is mainly the West Midlands and North East England. So down south in East Sussex, they don't add fluoride to the water. There is some research to indicate that actually helps and improve the formation of dental caries and cavities. But in East Sussex, we don't have that. When you visit the dentist, so for young children and adults, the dentist might apply a fluoride varnish, which is a really high concentration of fluoride. And I always tell the children it kind of tastes like bubble gum and it looks like toffee. It's a very like yellowy color and it's very sticky. So it kind of sticks to the teeth. A really small amount is used and almost just smeared around the oral cavity on the teeth, and they're asked not to eat for 20 minutes, 30 minutes after, so that fluoride then kind of gets stuck onto the biofilm that's in the plaque and actually lasts a longer time to protect the teeth. So when parents do their 6-monthly visit, they can request and say to dentists, can you please add the fluoride varnish? Most dentists will do it anyway. But if they're not sure, they can ask the dentist about it. Then we've got fluoride mouthwashes. So a lot of people ask me, oh, what about mouthwashes? So whenever I go to a big supermarket, I go into the aisle where the toothbrushes and mouthwashes is, and it just blows my mind at how many products of mouthwash is available. So when people say they love using it, and then I was like, yeah, no, I can see why, because it gives you that minty fresh feeling. But then I say to them, have you ever looked at the ingredients at the back and see how much fluoride is in mouthwash? So there's only about 225 parts per million fluoride in a mouthwash, which is a lot less than toothpaste. So if a patient or parent likes using mouthwash, I'd say floss first, use your mouthwash, spit that out, and then brush. Because if you brush first and then use the mouthwash, you're washing away all the good fluoride that was in the toothpaste. Mm-hmm. Or alternatively, if you brush in the morning, use a mouthwash after your lunch, midday, and then brush in the evening. So then you have that extra dose of fluoride throughout the day, but you're not washing away any of the fluoride. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make interesting. And you mentioned flossing there. So flossing with children.
Yes. So for children, we won't recommend young children flossing. So from the age of 12 or when they have adult dentition, that's kind of when we recommend children or young adults start flossing. Now, flossing, when I speak to my practitioners, when I do training, flossing is a tricky one. So there's a few different products available on the market around flossing. Flossing is essential because so people think if you've got big gaps between your teeth, you don't need to floss. But actually the floss is not necessarily for your teeth. The floss is for your gum line. It's the bacteria underneath your gum line that you want to kind of scoop out. So I normally do a demonstration of how to floss, because when I ask most adults, oh, has anyone ever shown you how to floss? And then they're like, no. So we have this expectation of patients to be able to floss. But if you've never really shown how to effectively floss, how do you know you're really doing it correctly? So I normally do a little demonstration, and it is essential as part of your oral hygiene routine. But obviously for children, they won't need to floss.
That's helpful. Yeah. Thank you. So what I'm really feeling at the moment, though, is that we've got a bigger problem with dental decay now because of our lifestyles, hasn't it? We eat a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
Don't we? So what are your thoughts on that?
So I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm going to talk a little bit about sugar, because parents and adults, most adults, don't understand how sugar really impacts or creates tooth decay. So first of all, I call it the sugar equation. So you have the bacteria, which is plaque, that's on your teeth. Everyone has it. It forms on your teeth throughout the day. So you've got your plaque, and then you have food with sugars. So as soon as you eat, so I'm going to use an apple. So I've got some plaque on my mouth and I'm taking a bite of an apple. The sugars, the healthy sugars in the fruit is also sugar. So that sugars then gets attracted to the plaque and it sits on the plaque. Then over time, that sugar and plaque together forms acid. And it's that acid, if that's not removed, that is what's then causing a cavity or starts eating away on the healthy enamel to cause a cavity eventually. So some mistakes that parents make is bottles. So giving children maybe squash or fruit juice in a baby bottle. So that is one of the key reasons why 3-year-olds have bottle caries and tooth decay. So bottle caries is from any sugary drinks, even milk. Cow's milk has got lactose in, which is sugar, just sipping on it throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So we encourage parents basically to start introducing a free flow sippy cup or an open cup to have water in from 6 months upwards, to get used to drinking out of a cup. But it's also the baby have to start and develop their mouth muscles, because that then helps speech and language later on. Then the other one is baby food pouches. So I remember they started coming onto the market when my son was born, and that's about 7 years ago. They were already started introducing these baby pouches. Now, when you go to the supermarket, there's so many different brands, there's so many options, and it's very much a convenient product for families. So if we go back to, we're on the hamster wheel of life, very fast paced, parent can buy 5 pouches that's weaning and feeding sorted for the week, and they don't have to think about that anymore. But unfortunately, again, marketing are promoting these products as really healthy. The images of fruit, vegetables, all these lovely things in these pouches. But again, it's a processed food. It's not freshly made. The fruit pouches in particular, it would state, if you look at the ingredients on the pack, it does state it's got apple, pears, bananas, and blueberries in, which is, it's true. But the problem is not the fact that it's those, it's the fact that it's been blended into a liquid. So that changed molecular structure of the fruit. So the sugars becomes now processed sugar. And when the parent give that pouch to the baby or the young child, they are sucking out of the pouch. So the teeth are being coated with that sugar. They're not portion controlling because they just sucking. So the portion size of what they're ingesting might be much bigger than the recommendation for that child. Because I would say to parents, when you give your child a toddler, when you give them a banana, you might not give them a full banana. You give them half a banana and chop up 3 or 4 grapes. That will be it. But in that pouch, you've got 3 or 4 different fruits, and you can't estimate how much of the fruit is in that. So the portions, the spout that they just give, the portion size, the sugary intake then, and also the child will then not digest the food. Like if you had a banana and you chew the banana, you don't chew it until it's a liquid. You chew it until you can swallow the banana or the food. So that is one of the key areas for really young children, where they are becoming quite addicted to the sugar in these foods. And then we're now dealing with fussy eaters. When they get to 2-3 years old, children refuse food because the food aren't sweet enough because of these processed foods.
Fascinating. It's so remarkable how many different people sit here talking about the problems that people face with their health, and it comes back down to sugar and ultra-processed foods, isn't it? Every single time. Yeah. We're living in a society where we're just dependent on it, aren't we?
Yeah.
And it's one of the core problems.
It is, definitely. So I'm going to mention a charity called Taste It. Have you heard of them before? Okay, so Taste It is a lovely charity I came across, and their ethos is to go into early years in schools to educate the children on sensory food education. So they've designed some lovely lesson plans, and any school or earliest practice can register with them, and they get the resources for free. And then it's lesson plans on introducing new fruit and veg to children who might have never tasted a certain fruit, like for instance a mango or a pineapple. So in the early years, it's really lovely because you can make it very much play-based. So for instance, if you do a whole tray on citrus fruits. So you can have oranges, clementines, you can have limes, lemons, and you'll explore it. So with all the children, it's a bit different, but with the younger children, it's about exploring these fruit. And then there's only 2 rules. You don't have to try it, but if you try it, you don't have to like it either. And some children come away saying, oh my gosh, I love lemon. But that's not something a parent would necessarily offer a child. You won't just offer a child the lemon. So it's creating real opportunities, real life experiences with food and introducing something new and do it over. And then with that fruit, they might make lemon juice or orange juice, squeeze the lemons. So it's a continuous provision and learning that the child will have an experience. And then from there, they might learn that they actually like a new fruit or veg. So Taste It is definitely a charity I'd recommend.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to have to look them up. But you've really touched on an important message for me in many ways, I think, is around that experience, isn't it? Is it so? We were talking before we went on air around how important it is to have experiences with your children. I think we talked about it on air too, actually, and cooking, and we've just squeezed that out of our life, haven't we? But if we're able to find some time in our lives to make the stuff yourself, experiment with foods, it's going to have loads of beneficial effects on your teeth as well as everything else.
Yeah. And so fussy eating as well. I just want to link a bit to fussy eating because fussy eating is something that has become quite apparent, specifically in the early years. Parents struggle with coming up with lunchbox ideas that is a healthy option. And again, with marketing, products are advertised as really healthy, but when you actually go and look in the ingredients and specifically look at the sugar, you don't actually, if you then calculate all these prepackaged items, how much sugar does that equate to? So one of the guidance documents, there's an NHS link, which I will share with you on sugar, how much sugar the sugar guidance, how much sugar should a child have? So children shouldn't have sugar more than 4 times a day. And children between the ages of 4 and 6 should have no more than 5 cubes of sugar a day. And it's actually not a lot. When you look at one of the baby food pouches with fruit, that's 4 cubes of sugar.
Wow.
So that's just one of them would be your max for the day, basically. And there is no real guidance for children under 3 because technically children under 3 shouldn't be introduced to any processed sugars. So there's some lovely guidance and there's some really healthy food swap ideas on this NHS Wellbeing webpage. I can't remember the name.
That's all right. Well, we'll put it in the link, definitely.
Yeah,
sounds fantastic because I think we are, as society, addicted to sugar, aren't we? And there's clearly biological reasons for that, aren't there? That it even leads to small releases of morphine in our brains when you eat sugar, doesn't it? So we genuinely get addicted to it and find it hard to stop.
So one of the key things that key messages for parents is to, if they want a child to have a pudding after a meal or even before, like whenever they have their puddings, is to have it as a meal. Or if they have ice cream, even a yogurt pot as a healthy alternative, to have it with your meal and not to snack throughout the day. So I want to talk about children with disabilities, special educational needs, and medical conditions, because those children are at higher risk of tooth decay because of the possible medical condition. They might be on specific medications that might be sweetened for them to have to support their condition, but to take it and make it palatable. So they will have more sugar intake possibly through that and have a higher risk. We've got children with physical disabilities that might not be able to hold a toothbrush. So there's some products available for children with disabilities. And then children with sensory processing difference, they are definitely at high risk of refusing toothbrushing. And that's something I come across quite a lot in the early years, where parents they can't even get the toothbrush in the mouth because of that sensory feeling. So there is a service, a special care dental service that's available for families with children with disabilities and special educational needs, and they can be referred by GP, health visitor, or their dentist to access that service.
Fantastic. So listening to you, I've been thinking, what are the take-home messages? So I want to test myself on that. I'm hearing it is about building the healthy habits of brushing and thinking about how much and how often sugar enters your mouth. Is that what?
Yes, yeah.
That's how I feel listening to you.
Yes, yeah. So when I do the brush teaching with the children, there's a few messages that I've probably not covered yet, but I'm going to cover them now. So first of all, we want children to brush morning and night. So twice a day is key. The nighttime brush before bed is probably the most important one of the day. And that is because when we go to sleep, our salivary glands kind of go into chill mode and they're not producing saliva like it does during the day. So during the day, your saliva helps wash away some of the food and particles, but at night it doesn't. That's why when we wake up, we've got morning breath because saliva hasn't been cleaning our mouth. So morning and evening, key times to brush teeth. Then we have to brush for 2 minutes. So for the children, they're like, I would get them to guess and stuff like 10 minutes. I was like, no, just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes is still a very long time. So what I suggest to parents, there's a few songs online that you can get on YouTube, or there's an app called Brush DJ, which you can download for free, and you can download the child's favorite song. And then it's got a big timer. That's 2 minutes. So then you can brush to the music.
Oh, cool.
And we want to make sure that parents don't just brush the teeth, circular motions and clean the gum line as well. Because gums is what holds your teeth there and has to stay healthy. For older children and adults, a 45-degree angle towards the gum. Does that make sense? 45.
So we're trying to scoop out the bits.
Yeah. And then to avoid sugary drinks and have that with meal times, water throughout the day. What's one of the last one is visit your dentist as often as you can. For children, it's every 6 months. For adults, if you've got really good oral hygiene, it might not be every 12 months. It might be in 18 months. So just according to what your dentist would recommend.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
We've talked a lot about what people can do for themselves, for their children. What about schools, daycare centres, community programmes? How can they contribute to promoting better oral health among young children?
So, interestingly, for early years, we have a curriculum called the Early Years Foundation Stage. And as part of that, it states that early years practitioners, if you're a nursery or a childminder, anyone looking after children should provide some form of education around oral health. And the pilot program I'm working on, that's been my main role, is reaching out to all these settings within East Sussex, deliver training to them. And it's like a 2-hour training package. And then from there, they can then use our resources that they can borrow for 2 weeks to then do all these educational sessions. So there's no cost involved for them. They get free training and then they have the resources to educate themselves, the children, and then support families with those hard conversations. I think it's around the stigma around oral health and how people might feel about their teeth that causes a lot of barriers of having that open conversation. But throughout the training, practitioners really then feel more confident in having these conversations. For schools, I volunteer with a charity called the Dent Aid charity, and they are providing free toothbrushes and toothpaste, which I've shown you earlier, and they are going into schools and doing educational sessions directly with the children. And they are trying to reach hard to reach families, children in high economic deprivation areas. So as part of my role, I've kind of done that as well, visiting some schools and just getting in there and supporting the children with these health messages.
Fantastic. So moving our mindsets on a little bit, in the upcoming podcast, we're going to be speaking to Saul Rajak about eye health and managing common vision problems. Do you have any questions that you'd like me to ask?
So interestingly you say that. I felt my son had a vision problem, so I took him to the opticians quite early. And then I did say to the optician, oh gosh, when should you take your child the first time for eye test? Because normally you'll only take them if you think there's a problem. So I think it's very much understanding what is the messages for parents on when should you take your child. for the first eye test, and also how children's behavior might be linked to eyesight. Because that's something that I've come across quite a lot working with early years and children. And sometimes eyesight issues is diagnosed quite later on when they start reading. But actually, it could have been an indicator in the early years that contributed to behavior. So, yeah, it would just be interesting to see the link.
Yeah, I'll make sure I pose that question.
Oh, thank you.
It's been fascinating talking to you and getting infected by your enthusiasm. I can see how you can make a difference, because actually, ultimately, this is about motivation, isn't it? A motivation to make changes in oneself or one's children, to build habits. And I can see how motivating you must be to work with. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Nick.
You've been listening to the Health and Wellbeing podcast, where today's focus was on early childhood oral health with Celine Woodthorpe and me, Dr Nick Harvey. For more information and resources, check out our website, sdhc.org.uk. If you have any feedback or suggestions for future episodes, please email us at sdhc.feedback@nhs.net. Join us for our next episode, where Saul Rajak will be coming to share insights on eye health and managing common vision problems. Please take a moment to subscribe to help support us in empowering others with their health and well-being.